Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We're so excited to have you here for our first session of our transitioning throughout the lifespan. Today's session is really focused on transitioning into adulthood. So we've got some wonderful presenters and panelists with us today to take you through this journey. My name is Elena Gallagher, and I work with the Minnesota STAR program as well as ARM. And I'll let our presenters introduce themselves as they go. But I asked Amy Perrin to join because she's not going to be an official presenter, but she is going to be in the background on our panel here, helping run Q&A and answer questions as we go through it. But we thank you so much for joining us. And in case you weren't aware, this is an actual series. We're doing a 3-part series for this webinar, really with the focus of trying to look at transition across the lifespan. This is all being brought to you through a partnership with DHS and the Minnesota STAR program. And we'll talk a little bit about what the Minnesota STAR program is in case you aren't familiar, but it is Minnesota's free assistive technology program that's available to all Minnesotans to help people at all stages of life. Today's session, like I mentioned, is focused on transitioning into adult life. And then we will have 2 more sessions. So I just wanted to bring that to light so you guys can put it on your calendars, earmark it, be ready for those days. We have our next one coming up on July 23rd. And that one's looking at technology through life changes, including parenting, home, and community transitions. And then the last of our 3-part series will be on August 20th. And that will be adapting supports over time and specifically looking at aging, health changes, and higher support needs and technology that can help support that. So before we officially get started on today's presentation, I just wanted to walk through some shopkeeping things. In case any of you would prefer to have captions turned on during this presentation, please feel free to do so. You can do that by navigating to the More, which I have highlighted here. It's 3 dots at the top of your screen. If you hover over that, you can see down in the drop-down box, there's a language and speech section. If you hover over that, then there is another box that will pop up to the left called Show Live Captions. When you click on that, that'll turn on the captions. And know within the live captions, which will traditionally appear at the bottom of your screen, if you do need to adjust them at all, you can hover on the little icon or like gear setting for settings on that page, and a language settings box will pop up, or caption styles. If you click on that, you can also then change the font color, background color, font size, where it's going to be positioned on your screen, etc., just to adjust to make sure that those captions work well for your needs. Lastly, we are all about questions in this group. So we really, really encourage you to submit questions as we go throughout this webinar. As you've noticed, we are doing this as a webinar rather than a standard meeting. So we don't have it where you can unmute and ask questions directly. You are able to raise your hand. So if there's something that you do want to ask live, if you raise your hand, we can unmute you and allow that. However, a preferred method would be to submit questions, if you're able to, through the Q&A, which is also an icon at the top of your webinar. You can see the little Q&A box, the little chat looking things. And there's also the chat as well that will engage with everybody. So if you want to engage, just share comments and things like that, you can certainly use the chat as well. We'll also be keeping an eye out in case anybody has any difficulties and you're posting questions in the chat. We're going to be looking at both the Q&A and the chat for those questions coming in. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. We've got time reserved at the end to answer those questions, but if anything pressing comes up that's very content specific as we go, we'll be sure to address those as well. So I would like to call to the stage our very first presenter, Anna McIntyre from DHS. And Anna, take it away.
Thanks, Elena. Hi everyone, my name is Anna McIntyre, and I am the policy lead for all of the HCBS technology-related services at the Department of Human Services. We are also a proud partner of the Minnesota STAR program, and I'd like to thank them for the opportunity to share our support of this webinar series. And a big thank you to all of you as well for being here today for such an important topic. The Minnesota Department of Education are our partners as well. And in the education system, assistive technology is not something that is merely available under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, but rather every IEP team must consider whether or not assistive technology is necessary for the student to receive a free and appropriate public education. And this information must be documented in the student's IEP. What historically happened, however, was that students often left high school with assistive technology documented in their IEP, but then entered adult services where technology was not consistently discussed, planned for, or even funded in the same way. So DHS has worked to address that gap by embedding technology considerations into the person-centered support planning process and adding a section to the CSP where the technology information that is included in an IEP can be transferred to their adult services support plan and updated at least annually going forward. Current support planning statute specifically requires consideration of technology and remote support as part of the planning process, and case managers are responsible for ensuring that people understand their options regarding assistive technology. Assistive technology is a critical component of successful transition planning for youth with disabilities because it promotes independence, supports employment and post-secondary education goals, and helps ensure the continuity of support as young people move from school-based services into the adult service system. DHS has strengthened service continuity by expanding access to assistive technology across all of the disability waivers, which is very exciting. Modernizing service definitions, promoting technology first principles, integrating remote support options, and embedding technology considerations within the person-centered transition planning. These efforts will help ensure that technology remains available as a long-term support strategy rather than ending when school-based services conclude. Without further ado, I will hand this back to the professionals, but I will stick around to help answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna. We really appreciate you being here. So Anna was not only here to welcome us and kick us off, but she is also here to answer questions as we go. So if you have any questions specifically related to policy or support around this, Anna is very kind to be here and help support in answering those questions. As Anna mentioned, and we just wanted to stress it in case any of you attending here work with people on the waiver plans or who are on the waiver plans. As Anna mentioned, assistive technology can be covered by all Minnesota home and community-based service waiver programs. Where it gets a little confusing is the assistive technology service currently is for DD waivers only. But that being said, assistive technology itself is covered under specialized equipment and supplies for all other waivers. That's some clarification that we've recently been informed has been confusing to people in the past from an authorizing standpoint. Another thing that Anna mentioned is that there is that focus of getting people assistive technology and the right tools while they're in schools. And unfortunately, what we see a lot of is what we kind of call like a drop-off period is after schools. A lot of times that technology was purchased by the school itself. So it remains at the school when the student is either going home or after they graduate and leave the school entirely. So what we see happening is twofold. Sometimes if it's something that the school owns and doesn't allow the student to take home with them, they don't then have that assistive technology to use and integrate into their regular day-to-day life outside of the school setting, which can be an extremely important step towards them successfully using and engaging in that technology. But then also in the cases, even if they can bring it home, if the school holds on to it and owns it after they graduate and they lose access to that technology that was really crucial in them developing the skills that they were able to during school, that's where we see a little bit of that drop off. So one of the things that we really wanted to make sure any of you that work on the waiver side of things or who are in the waiver programs or support somebody who's on a waiver program to know is that it is not considered a duplication of services if a student gets assistive technology that is covered and paid for through the school, and you're looking at appropriately authorizing that technology to be purchased for them to use at home if the school does not allow them to take that technology home, and that will be a beneficial tool to integrate into their daily life. This is especially important if we're talking about something as crucial as like a communication device, for example. Keeping in mind that obviously waiver is payer of last resort. So if their state MA plan can cover things like communication devices, that needs to be pursued first. But knowing that just because the school purchased it does not mean it's a duplication of services if the waiver does need to come in and cover or purchase an item so that there is that total continuity of usage and care outside of the school. And then beyond that, we do also highly, highly, highly encourage anybody and everybody who can that works with the individual or the individual, if you are an individual yourself, to write down and understand what technology is being used. If possible, authorize it and purchase it so that the person owns it before they're fully transitioned out of school so that they can maintain usage of that technology that's been helpful and useful and crucial for them to be able to succeed. And so there isn't that drop off period. Also, knowing and understanding sometimes it is hard to go back and track and understand exactly what tools were implemented and used. So the sooner that we can make sure we bridge that gap, the better. So again, it is not a duplication of services if we're seeing these kind of gap preparations or gap in the school owns it, the school keeps it, for the waiver or to pursue it through Medicaid or Medicare for the individual as well. So that being said, we are going to talk a little bit about some alternative fundings later on in the presentation for people who are not on waiver plans. But I did want to stress that at the start, especially with Anna being here from the waiver side of things. So we will move on to some actual strong examples of assistive technology that can be used. I'll call our next presenter to the stage, Sue Redepenning.
Hi, I'm going to be introducing some of the things that we consider with transition age for assistive technology. And these are, like Elena said, things that kids or students use in school, but often can be used at home, and they really need to use it in all planes of their life. And also as a person gets ready to transition to college or after school. So I'll go over some of those. Now, this is just some of the technology because I want to give you some ideas, but in 15 minutes, there's no way I can cover everything. So go to the next slide. Examples of assistive technology are everything from mobility aids, wheelchairs, walkers, scooters, adaptive controls for driving. A lot of students do get adaptive driving if they have a physical disability. So looking at those types of mobility aids. Communication devices, people transition age use text to speech apps, computers that talk for the person if the person is non-speaking, or it's hard for the person to make their wants and needs known for people to understand that don't know them as well, and alternative keyboards. Hearing and vision aids, some of the things are hearing aids, braille displays, screen readers, tools that students are using in school, in college, and at work. And adaptive tools for daily living, because also getting yourself dressed and ready and getting to work or getting to school, all those adaptations that help somebody, like smart home technology, can help that student to be independent and to have the goals to live independently after transition age. All right, so I'm going to go. Oh, technology allows for greater independence. So when we look at technology examples, someone using a power wheelchair to help navigate their environment, they can do that without assistance. A person with low vision, they are able to read books, emails, do websites using a screen reader or magnification software. Individuals who cannot speak or talk on their own express their thoughts using a speech generating device. So those are examples of how assistive technology can allow somebody to be fully independent or allow greater independence. Some of the low tech options are some of the people's favorite that I work with, using visual picture schedules. So a lot of people will use either real pictures or pictures of things that they need to do throughout the day, and they'll create first then types of activities that they need, like for getting dressed, for getting to school. And some of those visual pictures can allow that person to be fully independent with those activities and to take them off as they finish them. Reminder Rosie is a piece of technology that plugs into the wall, and you can add reminders that verbally tell the person, when it is time to get up, when it's time to brush their teeth or to eat breakfast, when the bus is coming. You can add with the person's voice, they're able to add those reminders, or the parent or someone in the person's team is able to add whatever the person needs. And that does not require internet. It just requires plugging into the wall. So it's very simple. And then reminder watches. There are smartwatches that a lot of transition age kids wear, and we can help, or an OT or a professional can help set those up so that the right reminders are there. Or it can be watches that are dedicated to reminders. And it can be something that actually vibrates or tells the person what is needed, depending on what their abilities are and what's most useful. Timers. So timers that show when time is running out, timers that show when the person is in a green area, which means they have plenty of time to do their activity. Yellow means start to wrap up. Red means done, time to move on. Those can be very helpful in school and at home, and as people transition to activities at home or work. Built-in timers. We do use a lot of built-in timers if someone has a computer or a smartphone or a smartwatch. What's most helpful is to find the technology that the person is learning to use and using in their life now, and then building in those timers to that tool that they already like and that they already understand and know how to use. Reading tools. So there's all different types of reading tools that are available. There are scanning pens. So if a person is able to read and understand some of what they're reading, but they need to check some of the items. These pens are great. The person can follow along the line and it will read to them what it says. They also can define a word. So if someone doesn't understand what a word means, it also can give a definition. Some of the reading pens can translate from English to Spanish or to a different language. There's also reading software. We try to use built-in technology. So if someone's already using a tablet, a Chromebook, or a computer, we'll use built-in software that's already built into for accessibility, because then that can be something that carries across platforms that they're using. But there are many people that use specialized reading software because that is better for them and it allows more functionality. So it's really looking at what the needs are, both at school, work, and home. And a lot of people still use recording tools. Obviously, they make sure that where they're going, if they're recording like a lecture or something, that the teacher understands that they're doing that and why. But a lot of people also use like digital recorders to record things that they want to remember throughout the day, that they want to remember when they get home, that they have homework to do, or that they have a job to get to or a detail of something they want to pick up on the way home. There are recording pens that are out there, and so someone can take the notes as much as they're able to, but they might not be able to keep up with note taking. And so the pen can help record what the teacher or the activity or the meeting is, again, if they let people know that they're using that pen. And then when the person touches the paper that they were writing at the time of the recording, it will play back what was being said at that time that they wrote that. So it's a great way for them to take as much notes as they can, participate in the activity, and then also to be able to play it back later. And then many of the recording pens you can download onto a computer and merge your notes. And it's also a really good way. A lot of the people that I help, they say that that really helps them to study too, when they're looking back, listening, and then also merging it. It's really teaching them in many different ways what they're trying to learn for the test or for work. We try really hard to make smart tools simpler for people. So if a transition age person has a smartphone, we can look at making it simpler. So Apple has some really good features on the newer phones where we can actually enlarge the apps on the phone that the person is using, and then we can put those on the front page so it's very obvious of what are their priorities, what are the things that they're using. We can also increase brightness or contrast, use larger print. So getting into the settings of the phone, a lot of times people don't know all the different things that can happen on an iPhone or on an Android phone, and making that phone be smarter for that person. Built-in computer options. So whether it's a Chromebook, a Mac, or a PC that someone's using, the accessibility features have come a long way. Where we used to always have to add software to computers, sometimes we still do, but oftentimes these built-in accessibility options are what the person needs and they work great. And they're free once the device is purchased. Um, so for accessibility, Windows has their own platform. They have their own built-in, what we used to call Dragon technology, that you can talk to the computer and type. And then it also has built-in screen readers. Mac also does that. They have voice control and voiceover. And Androids have voice access and talkback. The thing that confuses people is each of these companies call their words something different for the same thing that it's doing. iOS has voice control and voiceover, and then Microsoft has Copilot and Google has Gemini. But I would say accessibility features have come a long way. And what Elena said too is oftentimes students will have computers or Chromebooks at school, and sometimes they can come home and sometimes they can't. And so that's where a professional can help to decide what's needed at home and trying to get a similar option that they can learn and use even after they're done with school. Leveraging AI. So I know like AI has its place, and we never want someone to use AI to do their homework or to create things. But AI, like Voice It, is a great tool that a person can use if they have a non-traditional voice, and maybe Siri and Alexa aren't picking up their voice. Voice It is something that you can use where it trains to your voice and it learns it over time. And then that person is able to use that to voice control things, even if their voice is different and hard for a computer to understand. Things like Goblin, which is using AI to help organize yourself. You can help think of problem solving things and choices. It's putting information in and helping to get organized and helping to look at things. Or when a student is looking up a lot of references, AI can help to organize where those are. So it's time saving, organizing, helping, but it's never replacing. The person's still doing the work themselves. I think we get afraid of AI when it really helps people leverage. So if we're working, like we in my company work a lot with students and professionals to gain market rate employment, and AI can really leverage the speed that someone's able to work because it can help you integrate things more quickly. Low vision devices. So everything from magnifiers, and there's all different kinds, all different sizes, and many now can magnify and light up, and you can put it in your backpack, in your purse. Oftentimes, if a person is using a smartphone or a tablet, you can add a magnifier to that, and it can do the same thing. Large print calendars, watches that talk, using an app, and this one is free, Be My Eyes, where if someone is like cooking at home or doing something and they needed a sighted person to help give them input, this is an app that the person can log into, and a sighted volunteer is there to help them. So a lot of these low vision aids are very simple, easy to integrate and try in technology that the person's already using. What we're trying to do is help people be independent in all their environments, to be able to go grocery shopping, to be able to live more independently, to be able to go to school, to get to work, and learning all the low vision devices that are available. There are low vision aids also that are very good at lighting things and magnifying things, but they're not big. They used to always be really large and take up a lot of space. There's handheld magnifiers that a person can bring to the grocery store with them, like the one that's black with orange. And some of those can read a label to someone. So they are taking a picture and it can read the label, like if they're at a grocery store or if it's their pill bottle. The middle device is a fold-up device, and that one does light up. And when you unfold it, you can read a book, you can read mail. It actually magnifies quite big for someone to see stuff, and it gets out of the way quickly too. And then if people have a tablet, we can add apps to that tablet that do the same thing, and a stand to put the tablet in. So then that becomes the way they can read or take a picture, and it can tell them what it's, underneath them, what the letter says or what the pill bottle says. Hearing. So, hearing aids are something that a, professional audiologist would be looking at. But if somebody needs some assistive technology for hearing, like a pocket talker that would help amplify, or a voice amplifier for someone whose voice is weaker and others can't hear them, um, to have some alerts in the home so that person that has hearing deficit can be learning when the phone is ringing, when there's somebody at the door, when the fire alarm is going off. So this home alert, you can add more and more things throughout the house to alert that person with a hearing impairment through vibration and through strobe and through words that come across the screen of things that are going on in the home. Communication devices. These are a device that is paid for by insurance, by Medicaid or Medicare if you're an older person. But for transition people, this is one of the items that would be covered. If a speech therapist is involved in doing the assessment, it can be a speech therapist at school. It can be a speech therapist that's in the community in a clinic, or one that is part of an assistive technology company that goes to the person. This is one area that I do see when we're going out to do assessments that the school has provided. Oftentimes, the student with a communication device until they age out of school, like 21. And then all of a sudden, we see somebody that doesn't have their voice, doesn't have their communication device anymore. And it was sudden for them. And that's really hard. And so that is one of the big areas we really want to plan, that it's great that the school is providing devices, but we could also be looking at a device that insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, could pay for, so that that person doesn't age out and not have their device, because they always should have it at school, at home, and in the community, because they're going to need it in everywhere that they go if it's something that the person's using to be their voice. Also, things that make things easier. So, Dicem is a sticky blue material, and it's readily available. You can even get it at Home Depot. You can cut it into the size that you want. It comes in sizes that you can open a jar. It comes in sizes that you can put under a bowl so you can stabilize things. We have a lot of people putting it under a cutting board as they're cutting, or a bowl that they're stirring. And you can also put it on handles of things to make it sticky and easier to grip. Heavier pens that are easy to grip are very helpful, especially if a student or a transition age person has tremors. That oftentimes can make the tremor decrease enough so that the person can sign their name or write. And then mice for computers come in all different shapes and sizes now, and getting the right one for the person can be critical for them to be able to use the computer. Digital access. So we look at how someone does use their devices at home and at school. For phones, a lot of students do need specialized phone holders to be able to use that independently. And oftentimes that gets overlooked because maybe at school they have like it doesn't ever get used because they wouldn't let it out at school. But having things in the right place so the person can access them themselves is really important when they're out on their own, and also when they're at their house. Having phones that have tactile, which are like words that you can see if you're not able to hear on the phone, can be very helpful to someone to start learning those things and doing those phone calls. And that's a landline, but you can also do that on a smartphone. Um, a sip and puff mouse is really helpful for quick, easy access to somebody who has a high level, like spinal cord injury, or has muscle disease where their breath and their head movement is their strength. And then simple, different types of keyboards that are larger, mice, like that mouse has a big ball on it, it has buttons on it. Those things can make it so much easier for a person. Again, they should have these at school and they should have them at home so that they can use these and learn them, because those are similar things that they would use when they go to college or when they work. You can go to the next slide. And then mobility equipment, everything from power chairs to at home bath lifts, a lift cart to help somebody get up and downstairs, like if you have to go like to the basement in a tornado. Mobility, power chairs, and bath lifts, those are also things that are covered by insurance. So those are things that we can be looking at with a PT or an OT to be covered as durable medical equipment. And then smart home technology. So having independence at home at an early age to learn how to, you know, turn on the fan and to turn lights on, off and on, and to be able to do things like check who's at the door, even if the person, that transition age person, has a physical disability and can't reach for those things, can't get to the door, can't move quick enough for some of the things that are happening. Using Alexa or Google Home, especially if the family already has it in the home, getting that set up for the person's needs that has the disability and needs to maybe use them differently is a great start. And there's lots of safety features you can add to these so that it's not always listening, so that it doesn't always gather information, because I know that's a lot of things that people are afraid of. But having independence throughout the day and practicing for that goal to have your own apartment, have your own place, and see how these strategies work. And then the next slide will show there also are environmental controls that you can run through someone's communication device, you can use with switches, or don't need internet. So we can use those too so that that person can have control over their home and have independence, and also making their needs known. If someone or you need assistive technology, it's important to know like your rights, like what Medicaid and Medicare cover, what what rehabilitation covers, what school covers, and like Elena said, what the waiver is able to cover. There's a lot of options in our state, and being a good advocate and being knowledgeable about those things can be really helpful. Applying for financial assistance when needed or grants. Oftentimes, there are disability organizations that can be helpful. If you do see or anyone that supports someone with a disability sees the need for better policies, pushing for stronger policies to fund assistive technology and access to more programs is really important. We all encourage schools, workplaces to look at AT. One of the best IEPs I ever went to as an OT that supported someone in the school that also supported them at home with AT was when they used their assistive technology to lead their IEP. So that's where I would like us all to get to, that people in transition age, middle school all the way up, are starting to use their assistive technology to be a part of everything, including their IEP. And at the end, before they go to college, they should be leading it or onto independence or other life goals as much as possible. And then spread awareness that there is a lot of assistive technology. It's not all super expensive, not all of it's complicated to use. And then that we also don't forget that people who need the technology in school need it other places too, and need it when they're 21 and they graduate. I try to do it really fast.
Thank you, Sue. We really appreciate it. And Sue's obviously still going to be around. I saw a lot of questions come in that we will be addressing during the Q&A session. And just a note, I should have said this at the start. This will be recorded and be made available. I posted the website for the Minnesota STAR program where we're going to upload the recording along with the slide deck to the Minnesota STAR program website following this event. Our next presenter is from the Minnesota STAR program, and it is Jameis Warenberg. Jameis, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, guys. So we had some awesome examples of what assistive technology is out there, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's literally thousands of devices out there that can help people in different ways. So how do we try this out? And that's what I'm here for, is to kind of make you aware of the Minnesota STAR program and how you can try out technology. So first of all, STAR stands for a system of technology to achieve results. It's a mouthful, so like we like to do in the state, we shorten it into an acronym called the Minnesota STAR program. We are Minnesota's federally funded assistive technology program. What that means is that every state is required to have this program in their state, including our 6 U.S. territories. And we are in Minnesota, we're housed within the Department of Administration with the state. And we can provide services to all Minnesotans. We work with any Minnesotan. The only requirement to utilize our program is you have to be a resident of Minnesota. There is no proof of disability required to utilize our services, and there's no cost for our program services, which I'm going to highlight for you. So we are a robust team of 4 individuals working here at the Minnesota STAR program, and you're probably thinking, like, how do they do and serve the entire state with 4 individuals? Well, we have some amazing partnerships throughout the state that are strategically placed throughout the state. Sue with Live Life Therapy Solutions is one of those partners who works with us to complete our program services. But we have partners in Moorhead, in St. Cloud, Duluth, Rochester, a couple here in the Twin Cities, and we have a unique partnership with North Dakota's Assistive Technology Program to be able to help out our northwest corner of the state. Go ahead. I wanted to point out a specific partner. That's the Pacer Center. They're here in the Twin Cities. Their mission really is to help younger children and adults who are transitioning. And so their mission is to, to provide educational opportunities to enhance the quality of life for children, young adults, and with disabilities and their families. So they have 3 areas that they focus on, and that's parent training and advocacy. So they have a couple of programs that help with advocacy and different types of ways to help families. They also have a lending library. All of our partners, not all of our partners, most of our partners have a lending library as well, that we supplement technology into it to help them build a robust library. Pacer does have a lending library as well. And they offer some really cool programs like the Excite Camp and Tech for Teens Club, where they're working with younger children to be exposed to assistive technology. And then they offer a couple of social inclusion programs focused on bullying and advocacy. So they have a really awesome puppet show that they do for young children that promotes kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. So more about the Minnesota STAR program. We have four main program services that we provide Minnesotans. We're a hub for information and assistance, and we can also provide device demonstrations, device equipment loans, both short-term and open-ended, and we can provide trainings. And I'm going to go into more detail in the next couple slides here. So for information assistance, this is a great place to begin. If you're not sure where to begin, this is a great way to start the conversation because we are kind of the hub for information and assistance regarding assistive technology. Anyone who reaches out to us can ask questions, they can bounce ideas off of us, and they can come up, we can come up with some possible solutions. And we know that technology is constantly changing, and that's our job, is to kind of stay on top of these trends as well as all the other people that are on this webinar today. Moving into device demonstrations as another service that we provide. A demonstration can really help you become familiar with specific types of AT, but it also offers an opportunity for us to do a deep dive into the functions or the features of a particular device, or maybe it's multiple devices together. When you think about speech communication devices, there's probably a dozen different vendors that offer the same kind of technology, but they all operate in different ways. And so a demonstration can really help you highlight the different features, the different functions of those devices to allow you to make informed decision making. We can do demonstrations in a couple different ways. We can do them remotely or we can do them in person. And it really just helps you hone down, do I really like this item? So our short-term loan program, this allows individuals the opportunity to try out the technology, determine their needs, if it's going to meet their needs before making a purchase. So say we do a demo, you really like maybe 2 out of the 3 devices that we've shown you. You can do a short-term loan to be able to see and have a longer time to be able to see if that device will work for you. Our device loans are for 45 days. It allows a person the chance the opportunity to be able to have that equipment a little bit longer to make sure that it's going to work for them. Sometimes a short-term loan can provide an accommodation for somebody. So using that speech communication device as an example again, say that device that you've purchased breaks. Now that person doesn't have the ability to communicate. Well, they could loan out one of our communication devices, and oftentimes it might even be the same device to provide an accommodation while their device is getting repaired or replaced. Also, it's a great opportunity for you to learn more about assistive technology. If you are in the field and wanting to learn more about it, it's great for professional development. You're able to check out that equipment for yourself, be able to try it for 45 days to have a better understanding of how that device works. We do ask that when you are checking out loans, that we limit to 2 or 3 devices. And the reason being is you get 45 days. If you check out 12 devices, really that can be a lot to learn in that short amount of time. So we have found that 2 to 3 devices is kind of a good number to be able to test out that equipment for 45 days. With that said, if you have a special project that you're working on and you need to have more than the 3 devices, you can always reach out to us and request that accommodation. As our devices age, and we know that technology ages really quickly, about 5 to 7 years, we can move our equipment into our open-ended loan program. So what that means is that this is equipment that's available to Minnesotans that doesn't have a due date. Essentially, they get to keep it as long as they want. These are typically going to be, again, older devices. Perhaps they might have some flaws, like the battery doesn't work, but it still works plugged in. So these are great solutions for people who need to obtain a device that maybe can't afford to purchase it on their own, don't have a waiver to cover that. So this is always a great option for keeping a device for as long as you need it. For our training, we can offer some trainings to individuals who request it. A couple examples here. We have like high-level examples. Maybe you just want a basic training on understanding what assistive technology is, or understanding what remote supports do and how they help individuals. But we can also do in-depth ones. So if you have a particular topic in mind or a particular audience that we want to reach out to, we can provide trainings such as, activities for daily living. I noticed there was a question on devices for blind individuals. We could do a training on specifically geared toward blind individuals. So what does the loan process look like? So first of all, we have to have a device. And so if you're not sure what that device is, because there's lots of options out there, you can call us. That's that information and assistance component. Reach out to us, ask us questions. We can make some suggestions and get some equipment in mind that you want to loan out. Once we have that determination, we check that out. And so there is some paperwork that is required for utilizing our program. We do require every person to sign a loan agreement. It is a legal document. So, a lot of questions come up about guardianship. Guardian, this is a legal document. So a guardian would have to sign that loan agreement on their behalf. A couple other things to keep in mind is that we will pay the cost of shipping the device to you anywhere in Minnesota. But if you are going to ship that back to us, you have to pay the cost of shipping the device back to us. Sometimes people live close enough to our locations where they can drop it off in person. And if that is convenient for you, that does save some shipping costs. And we do require a simple 3-question survey to be required out at the end of the loan and be returned back with the device. So just kind of recapping what Elena said at the beginning, how do we purchase this assistive technology? If they're on the waiver plan, we need to identify what technology is needed, and that could be great. You could, trial it out, and you kind of know that this is the device that I want. Then you would want to share that information with your waivered case manager. If it's approved, the case manager will help navigate purchasing the setup of that device. If anybody has questions, if you're a case manager on this webinar and you're not sure how this process works, you could reach out to any of us on the webinar, and we would be able to help navigate that process. If they aren't on a waiver, we're looking at out-of-pocket expenses. So we want to choose technology that works best for you. We want to buy directly to pursue alternative funding options like scholarships. There's lots of scholarships that are available through nonprofit organizations based on financial need that can help purchase assistive technology. If you ever need those resources, you can reach out to us and we can provide those to you as well. The Minnesota Star program. Okay, this is fine. We wanted to introduce you to a new transition resource that's coming out in the fall of 2026. This is going to be a practical guide to help teams identify, trial, and acquire and support assistive technology for students as they specifically transition from school to post-secondary or adult life. This is going to be designed for educators, for families, for vocational rehabilitation staff, waiver case managers, and transition partners. And why does this matter? So it's going to help promote coordinated, person-centered AT planning across the school, homework, and community settings. So look for that to come out in the fall of 2026. I think, Amy, you can pipe in too that this might be posted on the Disability Hub. So that will be a great resource for you all.
Thanks, Jameis. This is Amy Perrin. That is correct. I believe this resource will be primarily housed on the Disability Hub, although please keep an eye on the Minnesota STAR program website. We will also host it there, and I'm sure you'll be hearing about it from other sources too. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Our contact information. So this first website is our main website where the webinar will be hosted. The device library has its own website, so that's the mn.atforall.com. This is a website that has all of our equipment listed, the ability to check it out online. So you add it to your cart, check out your cart. It will have a picture, a description of what the device does, different categories that can help drill down onto the different technology that we have on this website. So it's just a great resource to be able to check out what equipment we have throughout the state and how it helps people. That is it. We do have a QR code that we'd like you guys to scan to fill out a simple 8-question survey of today's presentation. If you wanted to indicate who the presenters are, I listed our names on the bottom there. So thank you for taking the time to fill that out. That helps us make better presentations going forward. It also helps us develop new content for future presentations. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alina for the question and answers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jameis. And to all of our presenters today, we certainly appreciate it. We did get some really excellent questions. And for timing's sake, since we got quite a few in, we'll try to keep our answers pretty rapid fire here. I'm going to stop sharing. So hopefully you guys grabbed that contact information and the survey link. But this way you can see all of our presenters' lovely faces as we go through this. So the very first question that we had come in is, can you advise as to when a smartwatch would be appropriate as compared to a PERS watch that doesn't connect to someone's phone, especially for an older adult? I was going to say, Sue, if you want to answer it, otherwise I can answer that one.
Yeah. So I think of a PERS device when someone needs it for emergencies. So if they're alerting caregivers, and it's all about that emergency presence, and it's very simple. And then smartwatches are when the person needs it for more. And some of the smartwatches are dedicated. So like Boundary Care smartwatch, they use an Apple Watch, but we can focus it for the person. So again, smartwatches can be dedicated, but it's for more things like medication management, alerting, text messaging, different other things that the person might need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And obviously, if you have more questions, Jameis posted our contact information, so you can always ask follow-up questions on that as well. Another question that came in, and since we did have the chance to address it in the questions, just drawing your attention to it, there was a question about essentially when to go to state services for the blind versus when to use waiver dollars. So please look at that in the Q&A, but for timing's sake, I'm going to move to the next question. And this is one that Anna said she would address live as well, and then also provided some additional information in the chat. And in summary, the question was, when can the DD waiver cover things like sensory equipment? And kind of the person who posted the question cited to a lot of back and forth on the end of interpretation of how the waiver language is written for assistive technology. So I know this is one that we've passionately integrated into our trainings about what is assistive technology, because it is something that presents with a lot of confusion. So Anna, I will let you address when and is sensory equipment an appropriate authorization for assistive technology? And I'm going to expand it. So both for the DD waiver as well as all waivers.
Yes, yes. So sensory items 100% are considered assistive technology. It's such a common assistive technology that it's its own category even. So definitely sensory items can be covered. Um, the definition within the CBSM also is not great. We are in the process of updating those. We did some waiver amendments, and that page will be updated soon, and it'll include that federal definition of assistive technology, which I think will make it easier for case managers, supervisors to understand that really if it's anything that can help somebody do something for themselves that they would otherwise need someone to assist with, if it allows them more independence, access to the community, any of that, it would be considered assistive technology and can be authorized under the waiver. And that is, so right now we have the assistive technology service that is just for people who are on DD. And as Elena mentioned at the beginning, we do have specialized equipment and supplies, which covers assistive technology for people on BI, CAC, and CADDY. We did just receive CMS approval to make assistive technology service available to all waiver types and specialized equipment and supplies available to all waiver types because previously DD didn't have access to that. So we do have approval that hasn't been implemented yet. We got to get our systems work in place and our policy pages updated, but you will receive announcements when that's been implemented. So that's very exciting. We've been wanting to do that for quite a while.
Thank you, Anna. I wanted to add too, specialized equipment and supplies is also the service line that is billed for EW and AC as well,
Yes.
for assistive technology. Okay, so I'm going to just answer this one pretty rapidly, but if anybody has anything to add to it, the question is related to Minnesota being a one-party consent state. I understand that may not apply in many situations, and I'm not looking for legal advice. Awesome. But in the event that a teacher, lecturer, other person has reservations about being recorded or permission cannot reasonably be obtained ahead of time, what guidance do you offer to people who need and use this type of technology? So as you mentioned, Minnesota is a single party consent state. So that means that the person, as long as they are present, who is using the recording device, if they consent to being recorded, they can use that device technically from the way that that is defined from single party consent. It is not the same if they were to start recording and leave it in a room and they are no longer present unless they got somebody in that room's consent to use that recording device. That's kind of how that law is written, is very intentionally making sure and ensuring that a consenting party is in the room that the recording device is being used. So that's about as far as we can say with it. It is an accommodation. It is something that is fairly helpful and necessary for some folks. So if there's pushback, certainly you can always reach out to us. We can help kind of offer support for why these tools are so important and why they're not just a nice to have for some people, but a necessary to have. So moving into the next question, you covered low vision tech options. Do you have an examples of AT for individuals who are blind? I think because that is such a broad category, and for timing's sake today, unfortunately, we don't have time to go into examples of that. However, there have been webinars that have covered this topic through Minnesota NEAT. So I would encourage you to go to the Minnesota NEAT website. And if one of my colleagues can throw that website in the chat, you can see examples of that. And certainly, like Jameis said, reach out to the STAR program. We can always provide you with examples as well. Another question that came in is essentially working with groups, with assistive technologies and things like that, making these recommendations, understanding that there is a risk for lapse of access to technologies and things like that, especially when transitioning out of school. Are there any good resources like advocacy groups, examples, internal training, et cetera, that people can recommend to help address this? I would say share this recording with them would be a good option. Certainly, as you know the information, and any of you, it's kind of like when I say, I've been using this example a lot lately for technology, is like the emergency response protocol, right? Is like you call 911, right? So like This is me saying, you tell people about it, right? Each and every one of us, when we have the knowledge, it's our responsibility to share that and point out that there are these gaps, share that there should be this consideration at transition. I think that's a really good like personal responsibility starting point. Anybody else have any resources that you could guide people to help support this conversation and understanding?
If you go to the Minnesota Guide for Assistive Technology, you can sort by disability type and look at what technologies are available that way as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And unfortunately, we are at time for our webinar today. I know there were a few more questions. Please, please, please feel free to reach out to us directly with those questions that we weren't able to get to during today's webinar, and we'll be happy to address those. Jameis had shared our contact information, and I know it was reposted in the chat for our link as well to our website. And thank you to our presenters. Hopefully you all will be able to join us at the next Tech for Transition series. I'm just going to pull that up one more time, just a reminder that the date for that is July 23rd. So we hope to see you then, and thank you so much for joining us. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.